This is the Kestrel Country Podcast, where we discuss the people, places, and events all around Kestrel Country.
Well, Annie Rench, welcome to the Kestrel Country Podcast. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
So Annie and I have been carpool buddies for I don't know how many years, but we've also known each other like our whole lives.
Yeah, we really have. We're some of the OGs.
I know, which isn't so much anymore.
No, there aren't as many of us.
No.
Yeah,
but
special.
It is. It's really fun. Annie was a couple years older than me in school, but we were on the same volleyball team. One of those people that you looked up to because Annie was very athletic. You know?
Oh, thank you.
And we're going to talk about that because Annie, that's what you do.
That's right.
So Annie, give us a little background, what you do now, your family, and obviously you've been in Moscow for a while, but how you got here.
Yeah. Okay. My goodness. Well,
I know.
Like we just said, I'm one of the OGs here in Moscow. My parents moved here when I was 1. So basically I'm homegrown here, grew up here, went to high school here, went to college here. Currently I'm married and have 3 kids. And just really enjoying that family life. In terms of kind of my career, I work in health and fitness. I got a degree in sports science. Gosh, I knew you were going to ask me this. So on the way over, I was like, when did I go to college? It's getting to be a long time ago.
So you're 2 years ahead of me. So I graduated in 2005.
So I was 03.
Okay.
4, 5, 6. So 2006 is when I graduated. So we're talking 15, 16 years ago. I know. It kind of dates me a little bit, but yeah. So I did go to U of I. I got a degree in sports science, and that was great. And it's special to use your degree.
I was about to say, you're one of the few people that actually...
I know, because it's actually really rare to actually talk to someone who uses their degree.
Like, wow, look at what you did.
Wow, yeah, it worked out. I just kind of got lucky. And I worked, when I was in college, I worked at the rec center and I taught, classes there and kind of stayed within the university, which is what a lot of kids did. And then my senior year, I came over to North Idaho Athletic Club, which is where I still work. I think I was just looking for internship hours. I didn't really know anything about it. Yeah. But man, from day one, I just fell in love with that little gym. And that was my senior year of college. So as soon as I graduated, it was such an easy decision. I just hopped over there, started working full time, and I'm to this day still working there. Wow. So yeah.
So that was your senior year. When did you get married? Was it during college?
Yes. Okay. Got married young. Yes. Halfway through sophomore year. Yes. Okay. So yeah, been married a long time, been working in fitness for a long time. Yes.
But more recently, you just launched your Instagram page about fitness.
That's right. Yes. That's right. Yes. I finally have gotten on the gram. On the gram. I have put it off for, over 10 years. I've been like, I won't do it.
Okay. What was the reason behind that originally?
It's a really good question. I just normally, I don't know if it's just my personality, but I've never been somebody who likes social media. I just don't like it.
I can understand.
And just for a lot of reasons, like I feel like we're all on our phones too much, myself included. Yep. And I feel like it can be very fake. Not always, but it can be.
Well, you're portraying the best picture
exactly.
possible,
And
right?
we all know, you know what I mean? And the whole selfie culture, I'm just like, but so that's why I didn't. But what really got me finally, and I think, really it's only been 5 or 6 months, I think, since I've finally been on Instagram.
This is new, but
it's brand new. Yeah. What I decided was I needed really badly a landing page for my clients in particular, or anybody who, it's public, anyone can get on there, but for anyone who wants to follow, but particularly my clients and the people that I was talking to every single day and messaging with every single day, and I was just sending the same podcast and the same information and the same, okay, you need this book, or okay, these are the blood labs you want, and I just thought, it would save me a lot of time and be really helpful for them. If I could just have this all consolidated in one spot. So that's what sold me. Yeah. And it's been great. I have to say, I've really enjoyed it. I've enjoyed the interaction and it is fun. I get it now.
Right. Well, and it is helpful. When you're scrolling from various things, so Facebook can be and Instagram they can be horrible. They can be they can be the huge time suck. They can be the waste of all sorts of things. But it's interesting too, from whether it's the Bible reading challenge, which is in year 6 now, I think.
Yeah.
And so then you're having things like that popping up in your feed and those reminders. Just like everything else, you need reminders.
Yes.
But the fitness stuff I think is really helpful and your approach is very no nonsense.
Yes. Don't have time for that.
I don't have time for that. but you're also sharing some really basic, simple, which is so funny to say, but okay, don't eat fake food.
Yeah. Isn't that funny?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is simple. It's not necessarily easy, but it is simple. You're right about that. Right. And I think it's kind of the kind of stuff that it's like, once somebody says it, people are like, yeah, I already knew that. But
then you start looking
but
at
you weren't doing it.
Eating, and you're like, oh, no, I eat a healthy diet.
Yeah. Yeah, right.
We eat salads. I avoid dessert. But then all of a sudden you're like, oh.
Yeah. Yeah.
But what I'm putting on my salad isn't actually that great. Right. Or what is, so it's just an interesting thing. So when you're coaching people, what do you start with? I mean, you've got your fitness side and your nutrition. Do you always do together combo?
That's a really good question. So that's actually a great question. I've been thinking about that a lot recently. So, like I said, my degree was sports science. And then, you get certified as a personal trainer and you build all these different certifications and things on top of that. But really, I come from a background that's mostly exercise, to be honest. Like that's my wheelhouse. That's where my original training is. Mm-hmm. And it's actually even a thing in the fitness world for personal trainers to almost kind of shy away from nutrition simply because we're taught that it's kind of like out of your scope. Like you're not a dietitian. You're not this, you're not that. So you just need to stick with exercise. And that was kind of, originally how we started, but it took me 1 year, two in the industry to realize that, listen, people won't reach their goals without the nutrition piece. Right. It's too important. And like I tell my clients, I wish it wasn't true. I wish we could eat whatever we wanted, you guys. Like I'm on your side. Like I love food and I wish we could just eat and then just go for a run. No problem. Right. And maybe when you're young, you can get away with that. And we all have that one friend who can, You're like,
doesn't matter what they
eat. They're
it
just like a garbage disposal and it doesn't matter. Yeah. We all know that one person. For the most part though, it's not us, Yep. And so I learned early on, like you have to understand nutrition and it really is way too important. It is way too impactful to ignore. And you're not going to ever, as the saying goes, you can't really outwork out a bad diet. So most of the people that I work with who come through my doors are like, they're for the most part looking for weight loss. Every once in a while you get something interesting like a performance goal, or I actually want to put some muscle on. But for the most part, people are like, I want less fat on my body. And that's legit. Yeah. And there's really no way, especially for someone over 30, to really achieve that without taking a hard look at nutrition. So all that was a long-winded way of saying, yes, I have to look at both. And I would say every year that I've been a trainer, the harder I have leaned into the nutritional side because that's really where the magic happens. Yeah. And again, I wish it wasn't true, but it is.
So what's the biggest aha moment that you find repeating to your clients? So for the nutrition side of it, because if they're coming in and, maybe this isn't the common question, but maybe it is that, hey, I can't lose weight.
Right. No, that is.
It's not
all the time.
Off.
It's not coming off. Yeah.
So is there a common culprit that you found?
Yes. I would say yes. I mean, obviously everybody's different. Everybody's bio-individual. And that's one of the reasons that working with someone who's going to sit down and talk to you, in your context is really important because, everybody is different. But I would say some really common themes I see is number one, kind of what we were touching on at the start here, talking about Instagram, people thinking that they're eating healthy when they're really not. And it's tough because I don't blame them. Like, I mean, we're taught this stuff, from what we're taught in school to what,
that breakfast cereal is a normal breakfast.
Yes. The food guide pyramid, breakfast is the most important meal of the day. Yeah. And what does the FDA still say that you're supposed to eat? Like, it's a ridiculous. It's like 6 to 9 servings of, grains basically every single day. So, I mean, and that fat's bad for you. There's been a huge war on fat in America over the past several, years. So I don't blame these women. A lot of times it's women at all. They're like, I'm doing all the right things, or even when you get into the like health products, like this is keto. This has protein in it. This is high in fiber. So all these marketing companies know what they're doing.
Oh, it is.
They know what they're doing. Yes. So sometimes it's like, okay, I know you think you're eating healthy. And again, you're doing everything you've been told to do, but it's clearly not working. So let's look at it. And a lot of times when we just make a shift, we actually start caring more about what's in our food than how much we're eating, because there's also been that push to just kind of this calorie in, calorie out. Like it's all about the calories, which again, the proof's in the pudding. It just doesn't work for people. So I would say that's a big one. And just, pushing them towards understanding what's in their food, eating way more real food, and for the most part for women, eating a lot more protein. That's a big one.
On the protein.
Yeah, just eating more protein. So there's that, and then I will say there is a really a good amount, if we're talking about just what the biggest culprits are for people whose weight won't move. The other one is hormones. And especially as we all get older, and I don't mean that old, I mean 30, 35.
Yeah.
A lot of times what you get is someone coming in, men too, but even women, we're even more complicated on the hormonal side. You know, we're just a little tougher. It's a lot more going on.
Yeah.
They come through and they just basically, it's like, well, what was working for me before just isn't working anymore,
yeah.
you know? And sometimes those people, you look at their diet and it's like, okay, we have work to do here, but sometimes they're dialed in. They are doing the work. They are eating clean. They are exercising. They're doing everything on paper that's right. And with them, usually you have to take a hard look at hormones. And that's just something that most of us are not educated about. And that includes people like me. I mean, there are doctors, nutritionists, personal trainers who have no idea kind of what hormones are in our body, what their job is, how food signals them, how, exercising too much, too little, how that signals them. And they're so powerful. I mean, really, I actually just did one of my car videos on Instagram about this. You could be doing everything right. And if even one of your hormones is out of whack, that can just derail everything, which is so frustrating for people, you know? Yeah. So that's another big culprit. And I spend a lot of my time talking about that.
Well, and I imagine it's not an instant fix. Either,
no,
where it's
usually
like
not.
You can't just magically expect something to balance out.
No, usually not. No, usually not. Usually you're looking at something like a cortisol problem, and it takes it takes time to de-stress your life. You're looking at thyroid, and that can take a long time to dial in. But at least, it can be at least encouraging to people when they feel like they're crazy. You can just feel crazy when you're like, I swear I'm doing everything right. I'm doing everything I used to. What's wrong with my body? At least giving them, showing them, hey, look, your thyroid's all whacked out. That's why. That's encouraging. And at least it's like, okay, I'm not crazy. Right. My body isn't broken. I just need to get these ducks in a row, maybe take this medicine, maybe do this supplement, and slowly you can start bringing yourself back. So that's fun. It's fun to be able to help people in that way. To help people in that. Yeah, totally.
So you've been training the whole time. Do you still teach classes over at the NIAC?
I do, yeah. And I have, since I started there, I teach a boot camp class, and that's a funny one. Talk about OG. That class has been around in that gym for so long.
Before CrossFit was a thing.
Before CrossFit was a thing.
CrossFit style? I've never attended.
No, it's okay. But it started, it's totally, you can date it back with the trends of exercise. So I'm so old, and I started it so long ago that it was basic high rep, low weight. And this is when I was a baby out of college. I didn't know this is kind of a waste of time.
Right. Instead of doing heavy weight.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. 20 reps of everything. It was totally that. And then I learned a little more, and then CrossFit came on the scene. So then it became way more CrossFit-y, which was fun, and it was in, and everybody wanted to do it. And now it's 15, 16 years later, I'm still teaching it, same name, but I've kind of morphed it again, where I basically have taken all the parts of CrossFit that I like.
Yeah.
And I've gotten rid of the ones that I don't like. Yeah. So it's not now just this weird hybrid class where I just love it and I do it with everybody. So I basically just whatever I want to do that week, that's what we do. And for some people that's awful, terrible news. But it's been great. Yeah, we've been going for a long time. So I teach that, and I've off and on I have taught CrossFit. I'm not doing that right now. And I teach a Pilates class early in the morning, which I'm also a really big fan of.
Okay. Yeah. And Pilates has been around for a while too.
Yeah, it has. It has. Yeah.
So it's interesting that, the trends in fitness, or you think back to our parents and aerobics. Or,
aerobics.
it's so...
Jane Fonda.
Yeah, exactly. The outfits and all of it.
All of it.
But the gym culture for us, it's just an interesting one. There's the gym culture, there's the food culture.
Yes.
And what's kind of interesting, back to the food front, is we've been watching Guys Grocery Games with the kids.
Oh, yeah. Oh, any food show.
I know.
Any food show is very fun. Yeah.
It's really fun because then they've done their own battle in the kitchen and made James the judge.
James gets all the power. I like that.
But it's so interesting because when there is a commercial, it breaks and then it's like an ad for Sonic, or an ad for some fast food.
Oh, yes.
So instead of making something on your own, we're sitting here watching a food show, and then let's advertise all the super easy fast food for you.
Right. That's smart.
Instead of making food.
Yeah.
So it's just such an interesting dichotomy. Or, instead of okay, let's go work out at the gym. But is it actually translating to your real life? Right. So are you doing stuff in the gym that's going to help you in your regular life?
Yes.
So in terms of that broad introduction, I was more your boot camp class sounds like you're more training it for your everyday life. If you're constantly switching it up. Is that accurate?
No, that's a really good point. And it's actually one of my biggest pet peeves in the fitness industry. Well, I mean, it's an industry that I love. Obviously, I'm a part of it, but I have my criticisms for sure. And one of those is people, and I would specifically fault people like me who are kind of leading, who are teaching, who are coaching, pushing a paradigm, I would call it a paradigm of exercise on people that only has to do with how you look. And I'm a personal trainer, so obviously I have no problem with trying to help somebody, lose some weight or feel like they look better, feel better in their pants. I have no problem with that. And it is a wonderful byproduct of just exercise and health and just being healthier. You will look better. You'll look healthier. So that's great. But I think that is not, I feel like that's too shallow of a reason to, take time away from your family, time away from your life, beat up your body over and over and over again. It's not good enough. It doesn't go far enough. And my paradigm of fitness, like why am I in this industry at all? Why do I work with these people? Why am I spending all this time and, effort putting people through their paces in the gym? The idea I think should be for everyone so that whatever, good thing you glean from what you're doing to your body in the gym, it 100% should translate into your real life. Or else, what are we doing?
It's a waste of time.
It's a waste of time.
We're going to constantly be going against the clock because we age.
Yes.
And all of the craziness, which is all out there in the world. I mean, the industry for that is huge. But no, I mean, aging gracefully with wisdom should be an honor.
100%. And not something that's looked at as like something that we're scared of or something that we're trying to avoid, that's definitely a thing out there too. But I mean, it's the whole point, for having people squat and hinge and push and pull and move through these, functional compound movements is so that they can then do those movements in life better than they would if they didn't train them in the gym, and hopefully without hurting themselves. Because I mean, really, men and women, and it's an easier sell strength training to men. For a lot of obvious reasons. It's an easier sell.
I think so.
Women, it's a little harder. It's getting better. It's getting better than it used to be. But my goodness, you guys, I mean, just take one day in the life of a mom and please tell me that she does not need to have a body that can withstand quite a bit of physical trauma. I mean, you are hauling things, you're picking things up.
You're twisting.
You're twisting. You're bending over. It's grueling. And there's no breaks. There's no, it's not like, oh, it's 5 o'clock. Okay, bye. No, I mean, it's like one of the most physically challenging jobs over a very long span of time for some of us that you can possibly have. And it's one of the most important ones. So my thought is go to the gym to train for that. So that you can be a better mom, a better wife, a better community member, whatever it is that, God has before you at the time. But that's the way I like to train. That's the direction I like to push my clients. And to answer your original question, that is the way I like to even gear my classes. I have no problem with people having an aesthetic goal. It doesn't bother me at all. I think that's totally normal. But I really am we're in this, guys, to get stronger, to get more functional, and to, to live longer.
Yeah.
So we're not just thinking about our kids, we're thinking grandkids.
Yeah. Going down the sledding hill.
Yes. Right. I want to be a fun grandma. You know what I mean? And I don't want to, there's this weird American concept. And this has to do with a lot of things, our lifestyle, not moving enough, definitely the standard American diet, but we all just sort of survive, and if you take enough drugs, because, our that side of our system is really good. If you take enough drugs, you could probably survive till you're 90 if you really wanted to, but we're not thriving. You know what I mean? And I want us to thrive. I want us to figure out what we need to do with our body.
Yeah. Spend what you have.
And spend it. Yeah. And with people, with things that matter, and not just sort of, not just survive. I would like people to thrive and thrive outside of the gym, not just spend all their time inside the gym, kind of completely missing the point. So,
right. Yeah. What about on the food front too? So, enjoying the food and yet at the same time understanding and navigating that path, there's the nutritional place where you're great. Well, there's a pill for everything.
Oh, there sure is. There's a lot of cheats. Yeah, there's a lot of cheats. Yeah,
and you're okay, so how do you navigate what is the helpful things versus what is, let's eat this in food, and what food is, because food is wonderful and beautiful and God made it for us to enjoy, and it's a blessing. Yes. And so I think there's the danger where food becomes the bad guy and food's your enemy.
And it can,
And that's not, a really unhealthy way for it to be. But then there's these supplements, there's all of this stuff.
I know it. It's hard to, it's a hard one. I mean, and it's one I think about all the time, what should our philosophy of food be? Because there's obviously ditches on both sides. Like you said, there's that obsessive diet culture where you have this terrible relationship with food. And not only is it, you could say theoretically it's this wrong, but also it's a terrible way to live.
Oh yeah. So
it's a terrible way to live. Yeah. And I see that all the time. Obviously you see that a lot in gym culture, but then there's the other side where you're just putting terrible food in your body all the time. And again, it's not really right or wrong, but it will cause your health to deteriorate, and it will affect, and it can affect so many different areas of your life. So I get these moms that come in and they're just I have no energy. My body hurts. My hair's falling out. I can't sleep. I mean, they're not, again, they're surviving, because they're tough and they're just going to get up every morning, but they're not thriving. And a lot of that does come down to figuring out, okay, what kind of food do I need to be putting in my body so that I can feel a lot better, you know, and that really, and do your job better and live your life better. And then that affects everybody, not just you, you know? So yeah, it's a balance. And I think it is a different balance for everybody. So one thing we all have to remember when we're talking about nutrition is that different things are going to work for different people and for different families. And a lot of people have different reasons in a particular season of their life for eating the way that they are. I will say a lot of Americans right now are unfortunately very metabolically unhealthy. So sometimes if you decide, like, if that's you, and that is a lot of people, sometimes you need to make some fairly drastic changes to get to a better, healthy place. And
okay, so metabolically, metabolically unhealthy. Can you unpack what that means?
Totally. So that just means that, like, you're dealing with basically metabolic syndrome, pre-diabetes, insulin resistance, just due to the standard American diet. And again, I mean, some of that, you know, obviously we want to take responsibility for ourselves. We don't want to blame other people, but a lot of that is due to what has been marketed so hard at us, you know, and it's kind of unfortunate that like everything the FDA said, I mean, just pretend it's opposite day. Whatever they tell you to eat none of that. And whatever they tell you to avoid, like eggs and meat, eat more of it and then you'll be good. And it shouldn't be that way, but it is, you know?
Well, and it's a hard thing to switch in the morning because sometimes I tell you, I'm one of those people, I don't want an egg in the morning unless it's later in the morning.
Oh, totally. And a lot. Yeah. And it's like retraining your taste buds and there's so many things. So again, it's a journey and it can be overwhelming, but some people who are metabolically unhealthy, which is a lot of people, they might need to make what at least might seem to them some drastic changes. Yeah. But there is a difference between a body like that who really needs to heal and what they might need to do, you know, for 6 months, maybe a year to get themselves to where they're at a much better place health-wise. And then someone who's metabolically healthy and is doing great, like that person probably can feast a little more and it's okay. Like because their body can handle it. Exactly. And so, you know, I think all those things factor in, but I think just a couple, just for everybody, good, I don't know, overarching principles that are very much antithetical to the standard American diet would be if you can just work on eating real food as much as possible. So as you know, just minimize the food that comes in a bag or a box and crinkles. You know, that makes that crinkly sound. And I mean, I get it. I mean, it's delicious. It's convenient. It's like, I'm a mom. I have 3 kids. I get it. And I will not sit here and tell you that we don't have any of that in our house. We absolutely do. But if you can try to just make it a little less and just focus on eating more real food. I mean, and it doesn't even matter what it is. Just eat more real food. Yeah. Fruit, vegetables, meat, eggs. That's great. Another one is most of us are just really under-proteined. Yeah. So if we can just work on getting that protein up,
and what you think is the protein, honestly, it's like Z-bars for the kids. You know?
I know.
I looked at the Z-bars.
What? I know, but again, marketing, very good because
it's a protein.
Totally. Us poor moms, we read that. We're like, well, that looks like a healthy granola bar. I mean, like it's not, you know, but they just market it. So more meat, even if it's cheap meat, more eggs, more fish, more just real protein and just prioritizing that. One rule we have in our house is just like my kids, I tend to eat on the lower carb side, but I'm 37. I'm done growing, or I should be. You know what I'm saying?
Only grow horizontally.
Yeah. At this point, if you're growing the wrong way, right? Yeah, but kids, of course, they're growing. So they eat all the carbs they want. But my rule is whatever protein we're having for dinner, they have to eat it first. That's a game changer because it's your most satiating macronutrient. And it's one of the most important, especially for their developing little bodies. And what happens with kids, this happens with adults too, is that you fill up on all the other stuff and then you're like, I can't eat my chicken. I'm too full, or I can only eat half it. So
except for my dessert stomach.
Except for my dessert stomach, which we all have, a pie-shaped stomach. We're not sure about the science behind it, but I have known it to be true. So yeah, there's some good, just basic overarching principles. Another big one is just stop eating after dinner.
Yeah.
That's another big one.
That's a good one.
I mean, to some people it's like, are you kidding me? But it's not that extreme. That's something you could do long term. It takes time. Like you said, none of these things happen. You have hunger hormones in your body that you can actually train. You know, so like for people who are like, okay, I wake up hungry all the time, but I'd like to push my breakfast out a little bit. You can train that hormone to just not fire up so early. It just takes time and just kind of making those baby steps towards those things. But I think moving towards something that's just well balanced, more real food, a little higher in the protein most Americans, we would be doing great if we just did that.
Push towards that.
And it's really just the people who might be, you know, just doing real bad, metabolically speaking. They may have to take it a little farther, and those are often the people I work with. But again, what I tell them is, listen, this is a short-term situation. This is a season. We're trying to get you healthy. Once you're there, you can loosen up, and you can enjoy your food, and you can be more, you can, you can indulge sometimes. And I mean, that's why we're here. And food,
well, because it's a blessing, and it's rich, and there's so much amazing well, there's tons of it. I mean, just the different variety. And so I feel like that appreciation of food only enhances your ability to enjoy it and maybe enjoy even less of it.
100%. Yes. And you know what? This is the other thing is that if you just make some slow adjustments, like the ones I just talked to you about, like eating less processed, again, food that just is kind of, we played around with it and put weird stuff in it. You know what I mean? Just eat more real food and up your protein. That will naturally mitigate your hunger. It will help you to not have these weird out of control cravings that we've all experienced. Like when you have one potato chip and you're like, I don't know why I can't stop. Like I'm not even hungry.
Right. But
and you're not even enjoying it. You're just thinking about literally stuffing the next one in your mouth. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, what is wrong with
Oreos?
me? Yes.
Like, just one Oreo.
Oh, and I mean, and this is the thing is that we call this a bliss point, and there are teams of scientists in this country that is their number one job is to how can we create these packaged processed foods with the highest bliss point possible. I mean, it's compared to opioids. Like it's
and
very
and maximize what you're selling.
Exactly. It's very addictive. So, trying to moderate that is very hard. And I think for most people, willpower's not going to, it's going to run out. So if you're just eating a little less those kinds of foods and you're eating real foods, it's really hard to binge on steak.
Yeah.
It really is.
Right, because you just can't.
You're full. And that's your natural. That's the way God intended it. Like your natural satiety cues. Just be like, okay, you had enough. Stop eating. And then you do.
So you're not gluttonous.
Exactly. Exactly. So some of those issues of like, how much should I eat? And how often? If you eat more real food.
You're not sitting there.
It fixes that problem.
Analyzing over stressing on all
totally,
of the
because it really can be just a horrible white knuckle experience to be like, only have one Oreo. And it's really hard. I can't do it. I know some people who can't. I can't do it.
That's why you just don't buy Oreos.
I just don't buy them. Yeah,
once in a while.
Exactly, except for every once in a while because it's just not going to go well. You know?
Doesn't.
Yeah.
For everybody involved.
Yes, please. We can't handle it. Yeah.
But I do think the fun part of the food too is though once you start like analyzing and digging in. So salt, for instance, I think has been viewed as such a bad guy.
Yes.
But now, whether it's you or somebody you've said, hey, go follow this doctor person.
Right.
It's like, hey, salt is actually really, really good for you.
Right. Yeah. And we're actually, a lot of us are, especially, I won't say all Americans are undersalted, but I would say there's been a war on fat. There's been a war on salt. Especially in the group of people who are trying to be a little healthier, trying to eat a little less processed. That's actually where most Americans get their electrolytes. Their salt is processed food. So yes. So if you're not eating highly processed food, which if you're not, good job. That's the direction we're trying to all go. You need more salt. So you should be salting your food, probably even taking an electrolyte. It's a really big deal. It's just it's a key nutrient that our body needs to function. Our brain needs it. Our muscles need it. And if you're exercising, even more so, right? If you're sweating.
Because you're sweating it out.
Yep.
So do you recommend that before a workout, get some kind of salt water or whatever it might be into your system?
I'm a huge fan of electrolytes. Absolutely. And there's all different ways to do it. You can, make your own concoction with salt and
with literal
water at
salt.
home. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Or you can just, there's a lot of, like Elementi is a really popular brand and that's the kind you like put into your water. And it's interesting because like, I can't stand it. It tastes like I'm drinking ocean water. Like I'm like, I don't want that, but some people just love it. They just love it. So I do a capsule and that's just pure preference. It just works better for me.
And you don't have to drink.
Then I don't have to drink the ocean water. That's flavored a little bit like strawberry, but mostly ocean. And I just don't want that. Yeah. But it's just a complete preference. But yeah, I'm a huge fan. I would say most people, whether exercising or not, could probably benefit from an electrolyte daily. Most people. And then some of my athletes, myself included, I actually take it morning and night.
Do you?
That's how,
Before you work out?
Yeah. Early in the morning before, with my coffee, whatever. And then at night before bed. Yeah. And that's worked really well for me. Yeah.
That's really interesting. I started reading Salt, Fat, Acid, Heat.
Oh, good. Good one.
But she's talking so much about salt right at the beginning, and of course she's talking about it in relationship to the food.
Right.
But it's so fascinating.
It's super fascinating.
Yes. All the different complexities, the shape of the salt, how that affects how much saltiness it is, so why weighing it versus measuring it is a big difference, especially with the kind of salt you're using.
Right.
Anyway,
there's so many options. And you know what? It's funny that you say that because I actually think one of the reasons, like, in the conversation about just trying to eat more real food, healthier food, and especially getting kids to eat it, my theory is that one of the reasons kids don't love like broccoli or steak or whatever is because we don't salt it. We don't salt our food.
That could
like
easily be the
so
situation
bland.
That's potato chips.
Exactly, which are very salty. I mean, and obviously there's other things in potato chips too that are kind of messing with our brains. But if you could just salt your food, you guys just season your food. It's really good,
right? And like, kosher, and like
yes,
she was talking about the difference between iodized salt, which, you know, and so if you're putting that in there, it's metallic-y and you know, versus the other flavors. So the right kind of salt
makes a big difference. No, I mean that's a great like beginner culinary. If you're trying to move into like, okay, how can I eat more real food? Just play around with different types of salt and season your food. It'll taste better
throughout the cooking process and at the table right at the end. You know, just really
and don't be afraid of salt. Don't be afraid of salt.
And it's good for you. All right, well, Annie, we're coming up on our 30-minute mark. We're trying to keep it on time today.
That's right.
Well, it's not always 30 minutes.
We got kids to pick up.
We got kids to pick up. But any big last thought, or whether it's fitness or food or both, what's your big takeaway?
Oh man.
Or your big recommendation?
Yeah, my big recommendation, you know, well, you know, I would just say that, you know, if you're in a place right now where you're like, I know I should exercise, because I don't know that many people who are like, I think it's bad for you. I mean, I think most people agree.
They know it's good for you.
Yeah, right. Like I should exercise in some capacity and I probably should be eating better. Most people agree on that, but it's just getting yourself to do it. And what does that look like, right? You know, I just want you to know that it doesn't take much to get started. And actually, you can do a lot for your health, making some very small, basic changes. If you just, for example, got yourself on just a very basic, 20 to 30 minute even strength training routine a couple times a week. It might mean meeting with a trainer. It might mean it because you do want to learn to do things right.
Right.
Like
you don't want to hurt yourself.
Right. You don't want to hurt yourself. Right. So there might be a little bit of a cost, a little bit of an investment up front. But once you get that down, that is for just the average American, that's way more than most people are doing. And two, that might be enough for you. Like you don't have to be hitting the gym an hour and a half every single day to get anything out of it. And I would say skip the cardio if you don't have time for everything. Just focus on strength training. And on top of that, just walk.
I was going to say, your post about that for people over 30, women especially.
Yes.
Over 30.
Yes.
And it's like, well, you don't have to be in gym clothes to go for a walk.
You do not. And you can take your kids with you, even better. You know, you can hike, you can bike, you can walk, just low intensity things you can do outside. I know our weather, sometimes you got to be inside because it's really dark and cold. But really, if you just added those two things exercise-wise into your life, you would see huge changes over time. And that's really, it's not that much. You know, I think it's doable and you could work that in. And on the diet side, just the things we were just talking about, just slowly start making one thing at a time, swaps with your food. One thing that you're like, okay, what's a real food substitute for this? You know, like just recently with my kids, I stopped buying those cheap Winco granola bars. Everyone knows what I'm talking about. Kids love them.
It's a cookie.
It's disgusting if you read what's in them. I was like, okay. it'd be one thing if we were having them once. We were having them like 3 a day. It was out of control.
I'm trying to picture them. I think you're talking about the ones that are like skinny.
Well, yeah, and they just are like really cheap, but they taste like it's like again they're Frankenfood. Like they're doing
I feel like granola bar. You're like healthy.
Not at all. Cookie. If you read it, right, read the ingredients. So we swapped that out for almond butter and apples, and my kids have loved it. So just one swap. It can be very overwhelming to be like, I can't. It's too much. It's too expensive. It's too overwhelming. Just think one thing at a time, and just move slowly over weeks, over months, over years towards real food, and you will see huge improvements in your health, honestly. And that's where I would leave you. That's where I would start. You can always take it farther, but you don't have to.
And they can always call you.
You can always call me, you guys, or you can find me on Instagram.
And what's your Instagram handle?
It's just Annie M. Rench. Just posting things that I think, making people mad here and there. It's been really fun so far, but it's open to the public, so you can find me on there too.
Okay. Well, Annie, thanks so much.
Oh, you're so welcome.
I really appreciate it.
This was fun.
It is. Thanks for joining us. Like, share, subscribe. We'll see you next week.